Okay, let's jump right in. In today's world, the ability to really, truly focus, it's like a superpower. Seriously, it's the one thing that high achievers use to get more done faster and better than pretty much everyone else. But for most of us, that kind of focus feels like it's always just out of reach.
So is focus really a superpower? Well, just think about it for a second. How much more could you get done at work, in school, even with your hobbies, if you could just lock in and concentrate without getting distracted? In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what's holding you back and give you a practical toolkit you can start using today.
So here's our game plan. First up, we'll look at the two kinds of focus so we can kind of diagnose the problem. Then, we'll unmask the focus assassins that are constantly stealing your attention. After that, we get to the good stuff, how to actually build up your focus muscle. And finally, we're going to master the art of taking a proper break. All right, let's kick things off by diagnosing the problem. See, before we can even think about fixing our focus, we first have to understand the two basic ways our attention actually works. So on one side, you've got what's called scattered focus. This is your brain when you're multitasking. Trying to reply to an email while you're on a Zoom call. And let's be honest, our brains are just terrible at this. On the other side, you've got directed focus. This is the goal. This is when you point all of your attention at one single thing, like a laser beam, and all the other noise just fades away.
So why is that scattered multitasking brain so bad for us? Well, it all comes down to this thing called context switching. Every single time you jump from one task to another, your brain literally has to reload all the information for that new task. And doing that over and over and over again, well, it just wastes a ton of mental energy and leaves you feeling exhausted without actually getting much done.
Okay, now that we get the price we pay for all that context switching, it's time to meet the bad guys, the focus assassins. Let's unmask these culprits and see exactly what's been stealing your attention all this time. So, I want you to imagine this. At any given moment, you have 5 units of focus available to you. When you're totally locked in on a task, say, you're studying for a big exam, all 5 of those units are pointed at that one thing. You are in the zone. But now, watch what happens when you get just a tiny little interruption. Let's say your mom pops her head in for just 10 seconds to say, dinner's almost ready. Boom. Just like that, your attention is split. One of your precious focus units gets totally hijacked, and it takes real time and energy to pull it back to what you were doing. And, well, that brings us to the biggest focus assassin of them all. The quote here really says it all. You're basically carrying a distracting mom in your pocket all day long. Your phone. It is the ultimate anti-focus machine. Every single buzz, every ding, every notification is perfectly designed to break your concentration and steal one of those focus units. But it's not just the things outside of you. Your own body can be a focus assassin too. You really got to think of this as the foundation for everything else. I mean, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not moving your body, if you're not drinking enough water, or if you're eating a bunch of sugary junk, you're basically fighting an uphill battle before you even start your day. Okay, that's enough about the problems. Let's start talking about the solutions. It is time to start building your focus muscle. And here's maybe the most important thing I'm going to say. Focus is not some fixed trait you're born with. It's a skill. And just like any other skill, you can train it.
That's right. Let that sink in. Concentration is a skill. It's just like going to the gym. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. You might start out only being able to truly focus for 10 minutes at a time, and that's totally fine. That's a great start. With a little bit of practice every day, you'll build that up in no time.
So here's a super simple plan to get you started. The best way to train this muscle is to make it a daily habit. Carve out a specific block of time each day that is for intense, uninterrupted focus. And the absolute best time to do this? In the morning, maybe about an hour after you wake up. Your brain is rested, it's fresh, and the day's distractions haven't started piling up yet. But what about the afternoon? I know what you're thinking. We've all been there, right? It's 3 o'clock, your brain's been pulled in a million different directions, and now you have to sit down and tackle something really important. It can feel impossible, but I promise you, it's not.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most critical section: work, rest, repeat. To be able to focus on demand, especially later in the day, we have to master the art of the proper break.
This analogy really makes it click. Imagine you just went for a long, hard run. During your 15-minute break, would you start doing burpees and jumping rope? No way! Of course not. You'd sit down, you'd relax, you'd rest.
Well, the same thing is true for your brain. Taking a break by scrolling through your phone is the mental equivalent of doing burpees. You're not actually resting, you're just piling on more stimulation and draining your battery even faster.
So, a proper break has to be, well, unstimulating. Go for a short walk outside, meditate for a few minutes, or just sit there and stare out the window and let yourself be bored. These things actually give your brain the space it needs to recharge. And the number one most important rule, do not pull out your phone.
So how do we put this all together into a system? Well, one of the most simple and powerful ways is called the Pomodoro technique. It's easy. You pick one task and you work on it with intense focus for 25 minutes. Then, when the timer goes off, you take a proper, unstimulating 5-minute break. You repeat that 4 times, and then you take a longer 30-minute break to really recharge.
But remember, this is not some rigid, unbreakable rule. Think of the 25-5 split as just a starting point. For a really complex task, you might find that 45 minutes of work followed by a 15-minute break works way better for you. The key is to experiment and find a rhythm that feels right.
Phew, we've covered a ton of ground here. So let's boil it all down to the absolute key takeaways. Think of this as your personal action plan for getting your focus back, starting right now.
All right, here it is, your focus cheat sheet. First, always aim for that laser-like directed focus. Second, be ruthless about eliminating distractions, especially your phone. Third, take care of your body. It's the foundation for your brain. Next, remember that concentration is a skill you can train every single day. Make sure you're taking proper, unstimulating breaks to actually recharge. And finally, use a system like the Pomodoro technique to give your work some structure.
So, I'll leave you with this final question. Now that you have the tools to sharpen your concentration, you've essentially earned back hours and hours of productive, creative time. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it? What amazing project? What new skill? What big goal are you finally going to tackle with this newfound superpower of directed focus?